Most people remember the sound first, a rough call drifting across an empty parking lot at dusk, a dark shape crossing above a quiet road, a gathering of black birds standing in winter fields, as if they are waiting for something ancient and invisible to arrive with the evening fog. For centuries, crows have existed at the edge of human attention, never fully wild in our imagination, and never fully familiar. They live beside highways, farms, forests, suburbs, graveyards, fishing docks, electrical wires, abandoned buildings, and city rooftops. Wherever human civilization spreads, crows often appear nearby, watching with unsettling patience. And perhaps that is why people have always struggled to decide what crows truly are. In some cultures, they became symbols of death. In others, messengers of wisdom. Ancient storytellers imagined them carrying secrets between worlds. Farmers sometimes viewed them as thieves. Scientists, much later, would begin describing them with another word entirely: genius. Tonight, as the world grows quieter outside the window, it is worth slowing down long enough to notice how strange that word really is. Because intelligence, as humans usually define it, is not supposed to look like this. It is not supposed to perch silently on a rusted streetlight in the rain. It is not supposed to hide shiny objects beneath leaves, recognize individual human faces, or solve mechanical puzzles with calm precision. And yet crows do all of these things. Beneath the dark feathers and harsh voices exists one of the most sophisticated minds in the animal kingdom. A mind shaped not by comfort, but by survival. A mind that evolved in forests long before cities existed, and then adapted so successfully to human civilization that crows now live on nearly every continent on Earth. Even now, while millions of people sleep, countless crows remain awake beneath moonlit skies, resting in enormous hidden gatherings called roosts. Some roosts contain only a few hundred birds, others contain tens of thousands. At dusk, they arrive gradually, small black silhouettes crossing the fading orange horizon, then more and more, until entire rivers of birds begin flowing overhead in silence. Scientists still debate exactly why these massive nighttime gatherings occur. Warmth may play a role, safety may matter. Information sharing may also be involved. A crow returning from a productive feeding ground might unknowingly help others locate food the next day simply by joining particular groups within the roost. But whatever the reason, the effect is extraordinary. Imagine standing beneath winter trees while thousands of crows settle above you in darkness. Wings rustle softly like dry paper. Branches shift under their combined weight. Occasional calls echo through the cold evening air. Then, slowly, almost mysteriously, the noise fades, and an immense intelligence goes quiet together. Crows belong to the corvid family, a group that also includes ravens, magpies, jackdaws, and jays. Among biologists, corvids are widely regarded as some of the smartest animals ever studied. Their intelligence is often compared to great apes, dolphins, and even young human children in specific cognitive tasks. What makes this especially fascinating is that birds evolved intelligence differently from mammals. Human brains rely heavily on a layered structure called the cerebral cortex. For a long time, scientists assumed advanced reasoning required this architecture. Birds, however, do not possess a cortex like ours, and yet somehow, through an entirely separate evolutionary pathway, crows developed astonishing cognitive abilities anyway. It is one of the quiet revelations of modern science. Intelligence is not a single design. Nature can invent thinking more than once. Inside the skull of a crow is a densely packed network of neurons arranged with remarkable efficiency. In fact, some studies suggest certain bird brains contain neuron densities comparable to primates. Their minds operate differently from ours, but not necessarily less effectively. This realization has slowly changed how scientists view consciousness itself. For centuries, humans imagined intelligence as a ladder with ourselves standing neatly at the top. But crows complicate that story. They suggest the natural world may contain many forms of awareness unfolding in parallel around us, each shaped by different environments, different senses, different survival pressures. A crow experiences the world through flight, sharp visual memory, social hierarchy, seasonal movement, and constant vigilance. It remembers landscapes from above. It recognizes danger quickly. It observes patterns in human behavior with surprising accuracy. And over time, crows learn, not just individually, but socially. One famous series of experiments revealed that crows can remember human faces associated with threats for many years. Researchers wearing specific masks temporarily captured wild crows for study. Afterward, whenever those same masks appeared again, nearby crows reacted immediately with alarm calls and aggressive behavior. What startled scientists was not only the memory itself, it was the transmission of memory. Young crows who had never experienced the original capture also learned to fear the masks simply by observing older birds reacting to them. Information spread socially through the crow community. In a sense, knowledge moved culturally. The implications of this are difficult to ignore. Somewhere above city streets and suburban neighborhoods, generations of crows may be quietly teaching one another about humans. Who is dangerous, who feeds them, who can be trusted, and who cannot. There is something deeply unsettling about being observed by an animal capable of remembering you personally. Most creatures disappear into instinct when we stop looking at them. But crows often create the opposite sensation. They seem present, deliberate, aware. People sometimes describe the strange feeling of locking eyes with a crow and sensing, however irrationally, that the bird is evaluating them. Perhaps that feeling emerges because crows display behaviors humans instinctively associate with intelligence: curiosity, caution, problem-solving, playfulness. Even what appears to resemble humor. Young crows have been observed sliding repeatedly down snowy rooftops, apparently for no practical reason at all. Others play games in mid-air, dropping objects and catching them again before they hit the ground. Some tease predators from safe distances, almost as if testing reactions for entertainment. Play is surprisingly important in the study of intelligence. In nature, true play is relatively rare because it consumes energy without immediate survival benefit. Yet highly intelligent animals often engage in it anyway. Ravens surf wind currents for enjoyment. Dolphins create bubble rings. Octopuses manipulate floating objects repeatedly with no obvious purpose. And crows, beneath gray winter skies, sometimes seem to play simply because they can. The more scientists study them, the harder it becomes to separate instinct from intention. This becomes especially clear in experiments involving tools. For decades, tool use was considered one of humanity's defining traits. Then researchers began observing New Caledonian crows shaping sticks into hooks in order to extract insects from narrow crevices. Not randomly, deliberately. Some crows even modify tools depending on the task, choosing different shapes for different problems. In laboratory studies, certain crows solved multi-step puzzles requiring patience, planning, and an understanding of physical cause and effect. In one famous experiment, a crow dropped stones into a partially filled container of water to raise the water level high enough to reach floating food. An old fable had become measurable science, and somewhere in the quiet overlap between mythology and biology, the crow continued watching the human world with bright, reflective eyes. For all their intelligence, crows remain strangely difficult to know completely. Part of this comes from their mobility. A crow can vanish into the sky in seconds, crossing rivers, highways, forests, and industrial districts with effortless ease. Humans experience the world from roads and rooms, but crows experience it from above, where landscapes merge into patterns of movement and light. From that altitude, cities must appear very different. Parking lots become geometric planes of heat. Traffic pulses like streams of glowing insects. Human beings emerge briefly from illuminated buildings, carrying bags, food, tools, fragments of daily life, and overhead, often unnoticed, crows observe everything. Researchers studying urban crow populations have discovered how remarkably adaptable these birds are to modern environments. In Japan, some crows learned to place hard nuts directly onto busy roads, waiting for cars to crack them open. When traffic lights turned red, the crows calmly descended to retrieve the exposed food while vehicles remained still. No one taught them this system. They learned it by watching. And perhaps even more remarkably, They learned to navigate human timing itself. The city became part of their ecology. There is something quietly profound about that adaptation. Human civilization often feels separate from nature, as though concrete and steel somehow erased the ancient processes surrounding us. But crows move through urban environments without accepting that division. To them, skyscrapers are cliffs, streetlights are branches. Intersections become feeding grounds shaped by predictable mechanical rhythms. In many ways, crows thrive precisely because they are observers. They watch first, then they adjust. This ability may explain why crows have survived environmental changes that destroyed countless other species. While specialized animals often struggle when ecosystems shift, crows remain flexible. They eat almost anything, they learn quickly, they cooperate socially, they explore unfamiliar situations with caution rather than panic. Evolution tends to reward adaptability more than perfection, and crows are masters of adaptation. Even their appearance seems designed around efficiency. Their feathers, though commonly described as black, are rarely a simple flat color. Under sunlight, crow feathers reveal deep shades of blue, violet, silver, and green hidden beneath the darkness. The surface structure of the feathers bends light in complex ways, producing an iridescent sheen that changes with movement. At twilight, this effect becomes especially beautiful. A crow landing on a telephone wire against a fading evening sky can briefly appear almost metallic, as though carved from polished obsidian. Perhaps this subtle visual complexity contributed to humanity's fascination with them across history. Few animals have accumulated more symbolism than crows. In Norse mythology, the god Odin traveled with two ravens named Hugin and Munin, representing thought and memory. In many Native American traditions, crow figures appear as creators, tricksters, or carriers of transformation. Ancient Celtic stories linked crows to prophecy and battlefields. Across Europe, their presence near death shaped generations of superstition. And yet, despite these darker associations, crows were not always feared. Sometimes they were admired precisely because they seemed to understand more than ordinary creatures should. Even now, many people secretly feel this. There are countless stories of crows bringing small objects to humans who regularly feed them. Buttons, beads, bits of metal, tiny lost fragments of the human world offered back in exchange for food or familiarity. Scientists remain cautious about assigning human motives to such behavior, but the exchanges themselves are real. A relationship forms, not ownership, not domestication, something more ambiguous, mutual recognition. In Seattle, one young girl became locally famous after neighborhood crows began leaving her gifts following years of feeding them. Tiny objects appeared regularly in the family yard, arranged almost ceremonially. Some items were worthless, others strangely beautiful. A polished stone, a blue paperclip, a small metal charm. The crows, of course, may not have understood gifts the way humans do, but perhaps that distinction is not entirely important, because intelligence often reveals itself not through similarity to humans, but through unexpected bridges between entirely different minds. And crows seem unusually capable of building those bridges. Scientists studying animal cognition sometimes describe crows as possessing a theory of mind, meaning they may understand that other beings hold separate perspectives and intentions. This ability, once thought uniquely human, appears in subtle forms among a small number of highly intelligent species. For example, crows that hide food caches behave differently depending on who is watching them. If another crow observes the hiding process, the original bird may later return secretly to move the food elsewhere after the observer leaves. Even more fascinating, crows with personal experience stealing food from others appear especially cautious about potential thieves themselves. In other words, a crow may project its own knowledge and motivations onto another crow. It understands at least partially that another mind exists. This creates a strange psychological mirror between humans and birds, because much of human social life also depends on this same ability. We constantly imagine what others know, feel, suspect, remember, or intend. Civilization itself relies on this invisible mental modeling, and high above parking garages and pine forests, crows may be doing something surprisingly similar. The farther science advances into the study of animal intelligence, the less absolute the boundary between human and non-human consciousness begins to feel, not erased, but softened. Late at night, when the world grows quieter, this realization can feel oddly calming. For so long, humans imagined ourselves alone inside awareness, surrounded by creatures driven purely by instinct. But reality appears far more layered. Intelligence flickers across the natural world in different forms, at different scales, shaped by entirely different evolutionary histories. The crow represents one of the clearest examples of this hidden complexity, a mind unlike ours, yet recognizable enough to create moments of eerie familiarity. And perhaps that is why silence around crows often feels charged with tension. When a deer watches a human, the feeling is different. There is alertness, but little sense of analysis. With crows, however, many people experience the uncomfortable sensation of being studied in return. The bird tilts its head slightly, observes, waits, as though calculating something invisible. Scientists have noticed another unusual behavior related to this watchfulness. Crows sometimes gather around their dead. These gatherings, occasionally called crow funerals, have fascinated observers for generations. When a crow discovers another dead crow, nearby birds often arrive rapidly. They perch silently in surrounding trees or on rooftops, calling loudly before gradually quieting. At first glance, the behavior appears almost mournful, but researchers believe the reality may involve learning rather than grief alone. A dead crow represents information. Danger may exist nearby. Predators may be present. Humans may pose a threat. By investigating collectively, crows potentially gather survival knowledge from the event. Still, the emotional dimension remains uncertain, and uncertainty itself is part of what makes crows so compelling. Science can measure neuron density, memory retention, and problem-solving ability. It can map social behavior and track migration routes. But the inner experience of another conscious creature remains partially unreachable. What does a crow feel while soaring alone across a frozen landscape at sunrise? What does it experience while recognizing a familiar human face years later? What happens inside its mind while sitting silently beside thousands of others in the dark branches of a winter roost? No instrument can fully answer these questions, and perhaps that mystery is valuable. Modern life often encourages the illusion that everything meaningful can eventually be explained completely, but certain forms of wonder survive precisely because they remain unfinished. The crow exists comfortably inside that unfinished space between scientific understanding and ancient intuition, a creature both ordinary and unknowable, seen everywhere, understood only partially. And as midnight deepens across quiet neighborhoods, countless crows remain asleep above empty streets, their feathers insulating them against the cold, their intelligent minds resting until the first pale light of morning begins to spread again across the horizon. Before dawn, the world belongs briefly to the crows, long before most humans wake. Subtle movements begin high within dark trees. Feathers shift against bark. A few low calls emerge from the branches, soft and conversational compared to the harsher cries heard during the day. Then, gradually, the roost begins to loosen. One bird leaves first, then several more. Soon the sky fills again with scattered black silhouettes crossing the pale blue edge of morning. For the crows, another day of observation has begun. Scientists studying crow behavior often note how much of their intelligence depends on social structure. A single crow is impressive. A group of crows becomes something far more sophisticated. Information spreads rapidly through their communities. Younger birds learn from older ones. Families remain connected for surprisingly long periods. Some juvenile crows even delay leaving their parents in order to help raise future offspring, a cooperative behavior more commonly associated with mammals. This social complexity creates a kind of distributed intelligence, not merely many birds living together, but networks of memory and learning extending across generations. In certain ways, crow societies resemble early human communities. Survival depends not only on individual skill, but on communication, cooperation, and the sharing of knowledge. Alarm calls differ depending on the type of threat encountered. Food discoveries spread socially, dangerous locations become remembered collectively. Unlike humans, crows appear capable of holding grudges. Researchers have documented crows repeatedly harassing predators or humans associated with past danger. Some birds continue these behaviors years after the original negative experience occurred. Others recruit additional crows into the response, creating coordinated aerial mobbing displays that drive away hawks, owls, foxes, or unwanted intruders. To witness this behavior is to realize how active the crow mind truly is. Nothing is passively ignored. The world is constantly evaluated. This intense awareness likely evolved because crows occupy a difficult ecological position. They are highly capable predators of smaller animals, eggs, and insects, yet they are also vulnerable prey themselves. Hawks hunt them, eagles attack them, owls ambush them at night. Young crows face constant danger from countless sources. Intelligence, in their case, became a survival strategy, not luxury, not abstraction, but necessity. Perhaps this is why crow intelligence often feels practical rather than decorative. Their minds are tuned toward real-world problem-solving. They navigate traffic patterns, recognize tools, track seasonal changes, remember food locations, assess risk, and interpret social cues with extraordinary efficiency. Even their famous caution around unfamiliar objects reflects this adaptive mindset. Crows are naturally neophobic, meaning they distrust sudden environmental changes. A strange object placed near food may cause them to avoid the area entirely for days. Researchers sometimes struggle to study wild crows precisely because the birds quickly notice experimental equipment or altered conditions. In a way, crows survive because they assume the world may contain hidden danger. There is a quiet wisdom in that. Across evolution, optimism alone rarely protects a species for very long. And yet, despite their caution, crows also remain deeply curious. This balance between fear and curiosity may be one of the key ingredients underlying advanced intelligence itself. Too much fear prevents exploration. Too little leads to reckless death. Crows seem to exist in a remarkably stable middle ground, watchful enough to survive, curious enough to learn. In human psychology, this balance appears important as well. The most adaptable minds often combine skepticism with openness, caution with exploration. Perhaps that parallel explains why humans recognize something strangely familiar in crow behavior. Not identical intelligence, but resonant intelligence, a distant echo. There are moments when this resemblance becomes almost startling. In controlled experiments, crows have demonstrated the ability to plan for future events. Some individuals save specific tools that may become useful later, even when no immediate reward exists. Others choose delayed rewards over smaller instant ones, suggesting forms of impulse control once thought rare outside primates. Future planning changes everything. An animal responding only to the present moment lives inside instinct. But a creature capable of imagining future conditions occupies a far more complex psychological world. It begins carrying time internally. Humans do this constantly. We anticipate tomorrow's weather, next month's responsibilities, conversations that have not yet happened. Much of civilization emerges from this ability to mentally travel beyond the present. Crows appear capable of simpler versions of the same process, and somewhere inside that realization lies a subtle philosophical discomfort. Because the closer scientists look at animal minds, the less isolated human consciousness appears. For centuries, humanity defined itself through supposed uniqueness. Tool use, language, emotion, planning, culture, self-awareness. One by one, evidence of these traits has emerged elsewhere in nature, sometimes in forms surprisingly sophisticated. Crows do not diminish humanity, but they do complicate the story humans tell about themselves. On quiet winter afternoons, this becomes easier to feel directly. Imagine a solitary crow standing beside a frozen roadside field. Snow drifts lightly across the landscape. Bare trees scratch against a gray horizon. The bird pauses, head tilted slightly, studying passing vehicles with reflective black eyes. At first glance, it appears ordinary. Then the longer one watches, the stranger the encounter becomes. Because behind those eyes exists not mechanical instinct, but memory, recognition, decision-making, Social knowledge accumulated across years of experience, an inner life is present there, however different from our own, and perhaps modern people rarely allow themselves enough silence to notice such things anymore. For most of human history, people lived in close daily contact with animals, not abstractly through screens or documentaries, but physically, continuously. Birds nested near homes, wolves howled beyond firelight, horses, dogs, cattle, ravens, and countless other species shaped human emotional reality every day. Ancient myths emerged partly from this proximity. People sensed intelligence surrounding them in forms they could not fully interpret. Today, much of modern life feels insulated from that awareness. Climate-controlled buildings, digital communication, and urban routines create the illusion of separation from the older biological world outside. Yet crows persistently cross those boundaries. They stand in supermarket parking lots. They perch outside office windows. They watch from electrical wires above crowded intersections. Civilization never entirely removed them, and perhaps that persistence explains why crows continue haunting the human imagination more successfully than many rarer, more beautiful animals. A deer disappears into forests. A whale vanishes beneath oceans, but crows remain near us, observing, adapting, enduring. Some crow populations now live longer than many wild mammals, especially in urban areas where food remains abundant and large predators are fewer. Wild crows commonly survive between 7 and 15 years, though some individuals live much longer. During those years, a single crow may memorize hundreds of locations, recognize dozens of human faces, navigate enormous territories, maintain family relationships, and accumulate extensive social knowledge. That is a substantial lifetime of experience. Enough time, perhaps, for personalities to emerge, and researchers increasingly believe personality differences among crows are real. Some individuals behave boldly, others remain cautious. Some explore new objects immediately, others hesitate for long periods. Certain crows appear unusually playful or inventive compared to their peers. This variability matters because personality itself represents another layer of cognitive complexity. A machine behaves predictably, an intelligent organism often does not. And somewhere above sleeping neighborhoods tonight, countless individual crow minds rest inside dark trees, each carrying its own memories of landscapes, dangers, seasons, and encounters with the strange human civilization growing endlessly beneath their wings. In autumn, crow behavior begins to change almost imperceptibly. The long scattered patterns of summer gradually give way to larger gatherings. Family groups merge into loose flocks. Evening flights stretch farther across the darkening sky. Fields harvested by humans become temporary feeding grounds filled with exposed grain and insects. The air cools. Shadows lengthen earlier each day, and overhead, the crows reorganize themselves for winter. Seasonal change affects nearly every aspect of crow life. Food becomes less predictable, temperatures fall, daylight shortens. Survival depends increasingly on cooperation, memory, and efficient energy use. During harsh winters, communal roosts may offer critical protection from cold winds and predators. Some roosts form in astonishing locations: dense forests near rivers, quiet sections of city parks, industrial districts glowing softly with artificial light, even abandoned shopping centers where warm air rises gently from concrete structures long after sunset. To human eyes, these places may appear lifeless or forgotten, but to crows, they become temporary nighttime cities suspended above the sleeping world. Researchers using thermal imaging have observed how closely crows cluster together in winter branches. Heat gathers subtly within the roost. Thousands of bodies breathing in darkness create small islands of warmth against freezing air. From a distance, the birds appear silent and still. But inside the trees, a vast social organism remains quietly present through the night. There is something ancient about this image. Long before electricity, before roads, before towers of glass and steel, crows were already gathering beneath winter stars exactly this way. Entire civilizations have risen and vanished during the history of their species. Empires expanded, languages evolved, religions spread across continents, and through all of it, crows continued crossing the sky each evening toward hidden communal shelters, carrying on rhythms older than written history itself. Perhaps this continuity contributes to their unusual psychological presence in human culture. Crows do not feel temporary. They seem woven into the background structure of the world, as though they belong equally to forests, battlefields, villages, and modern cities. Very few animals carry that quality. And unlike many creatures humans romanticize from a distance, crows often reveal the harsher side of survival without disguise. They scavenge carrion, they steal eggs, they fight aggressively over food, they adapt ruthlessly to changing environments. Yet strangely, these traits do not necessarily reduce human fascination with them. If anything, they deepen it, because crows embody a form of intelligence stripped of illusion. Efficient, alert, unsentimental. In nature, survival rarely rewards innocence for long. Crows seem to understand this instinctively. Even their vocalizations carry a certain rough honesty. Unlike the melodic songs of thrushes or mockingbirds, crow calls sound raw and functional. Sharp warning cries, low rattling sounds exchanged between companions, harsh territorial arguments echoing through trees at dusk. But over time, careful listeners begin noticing remarkable variation hidden inside these sounds. Crows possess complex vocal communication systems with regional differences, social nuances, and situational specificity. Certain calls warn about aerial predators, others signal ground danger. Some appear related to food. Others function socially within flocks and families. Young crows spend years refining these vocal behaviors, and remarkably, some captive corvids have even demonstrated limited abilities to mimic human speech. Ravens, especially, can reproduce words with startling clarity under certain conditions. Though crows are generally less gifted mimics, their vocal learning abilities still suggest advanced auditory processing and social intelligence. Language itself, in its broadest sense, may not belong exclusively to humans after all. Not human language, certainly, but systems of symbolic communication shaped by memory and learning. At night, these thoughts can feel strangely humbling. The human mind naturally seeks clear boundaries separating itself from the rest of life. Yet biology repeatedly dissolves those boundaries the closer science examines them. Emotion exists across species, cooperation exists, problem-solving exists, social learning exists. Even culture, once considered uniquely human, now appears in fragmented forms throughout the animal kingdom. And among birds, crows stand near the center of that revelation. There are moments when researchers observing them describe an almost uncomfortable feeling of recognition. Not because crows are human-like in appearance, but because their behavior occasionally reflects patterns associated with conscious deliberation, pauses before action, apparent reconsideration, exploration for its own sake, deception, improvisation. One famous experiment illustrated this vividly. A crow faced a multi-step puzzle requiring several tools used in a precise sequence. The bird needed to retrieve one tool in order to access another, eventually obtaining food after a chain of actions. The crow solved the problem with calm persistence, moving through the sequence in a manner many observers described as eerily thoughtful. Not frantic trial and error, but something quieter, as though the bird understood relationships between objects internally before acting. Scientists remain careful about overstating such interpretations. Anthropomorphism, the projection of human qualities onto animals, has long complicated behavioral research, yet the evidence for sophisticated crow cognition continues accumulating year after year. And with each discovery, the psychological distance between humans and crows narrows slightly. Not completely, but enough to alter perception. Perhaps this explains why so many people develop unusually personal feelings about individual crows they encounter regularly. A crow visiting the same backyard each morning soon begins feeling less like scenery and more like a presence. Humans start recognizing particular behaviors, preferred perches, distinctive movements. Recognition flows both ways. The crow watches too. Over time, silent routines emerge between species separated by millions of years of evolution. A person leaves food. A crow arrives cautiously. Weeks pass. The distance shortens slightly. Then one day, unexpectedly, the bird waits nearby instead of flying away immediately. Trust, in its smallest possible form, has appeared. These subtle cross-species relationships may seem minor, yet psychologically they carry unusual emotional weight. Unlike domesticated animals shaped specifically for human companionship, crows remain fundamentally wild. Their attention cannot be assumed or controlled. It must be earned gradually, and because their intelligence is so visible, even limited interactions can feel strangely meaningful. Some researchers believe humans possess an innate tendency to detect minds around them, a deeply evolved cognitive habit linked to survival. Our ancestors constantly evaluated whether nearby creatures were aware, dangerous, cooperative, or deceptive. Over thousands of generations, the human brain became highly sensitive to signs of intentionality. Crows trigger this sensitivity powerfully. Their gaze lingers too long. Their reactions feel too calculated. Their memory seems too precise. As a result, humans often experience crows not merely as birds, but as observers sharing the same environment from a different perspective. And perhaps that perception is not entirely wrong. Late at night, somewhere beyond illuminated windows and quiet roads, crows sleep with their heads tucked beneath dark wings, while cold wind moves softly through the branches above them. Their hearts beat quickly in the winter air. Their minds, so active during daylight, remain suspended in temporary stillness. But with sunrise, the watching will begin again. Across farms, cities, coastlines, forests, and empty parking lots, millions of intelligent black eyes will reopen to study the human world once more. There is a particular stillness that sometimes settles over landscapes where crows gather, not silence exactly, more like suspended attention. A field beneath heavy clouds, telephone wires stretching across pale winter skies, bare trees standing motionless in cold air while several dark birds remain perched high above the ground, watching the world below with patient composure. In these moments, crows seem less like passing wildlife and more like permanent witnesses, observers of human history, and in a strange way, they truly are. Archaeological evidence suggests crows and ravens have followed human activity for thousands of years. Early settlements created new ecological opportunities: discarded food, disturbed soil, open clearings, animal remains, cultivated crops. Human civilization unintentionally built environments where intelligent scavengers could thrive. The relationship was never simple. Humans hunted crows, feared them, admired them, blamed them for failed harvests, and incorporated them into mythologies almost everywhere they appeared. Meanwhile, crows adapted continuously to human expansion, learning our habits generation after generation after generation. It is possible that certain crow populations understand humanity better than humanity understands them. After all, crows observe humans constantly without attracting much notice themselves. They learn our routines from rooftops, trees, fences, and streetlights. They witness the repetitive structure of daily life from above. Morning departures, evening returns, seasonal decorations, garbage collection schedules, traffic patterns, outdoor meals, public gatherings. The human world becomes predictable through repetition, and intelligent animals are experts at recognizing patterns. One study found that urban crows often position themselves near fast food parking lots shortly before lunchtime crowds arrive. Others learn the schedules of fishing boats, schoolyards, outdoor markets, or agricultural equipment. Their survival increasingly depends not on wilderness alone, but on interpreting the rhythms of civilization itself. This adaptation has created an unusual evolutionary partnership. Humans reshape environments unintentionally. Crows study those changes and respond. Over time, the species most capable of understanding human behavior gain enormous advantages. In some cities, crows have become so successful that researchers describe them almost as urban specialists rather than wild animals merely surviving near people. They exploit architecture, transportation systems, artificial lighting, and human waste streams with extraordinary flexibility. And yet, despite this closeness, crows never fully lose their distance from us. They remain untamed, independent. There is something psychologically important about that distinction. Domesticated animals often reflect human desires back toward us. Dogs seek approval, livestock submit to containment, but crows participate in human environments voluntarily. Their presence is always conditional. They stay because it benefits them, and they leave the moment danger outweighs opportunity. Perhaps this independence contributes to the respect many people feel toward them. Even ancient literature sensed this quality. In mythologies around the world, crows rarely appear as obedient creatures. More often they become tricksters, messengers, thieves, survivors, or keepers of forbidden knowledge. Their intelligence made them difficult to place neatly within human moral categories. They seemed too aware, too observant, too difficult to control completely. Interestingly, modern neuroscience now suggests humans may instinctively react strongly to animals displaying signs of intelligence because such encounters activate ancient social processing systems within the brain. We are evolved to monitor other minds carefully. Facial recognition, eye tracking, prediction of intention. These abilities helped early humans survive within complex social groups. When another species displays behaviors associated with awareness, those same psychological systems may partially activate. This could explain why eye contact with a crow often feels unusually intense. The bird is not merely seen, it appears to be seeing back, and unlike many animals, crows frequently maintain direct visual attention toward humans for extended periods. They monitor hand movements, facial orientation, body posture, and environmental changes with exceptional focus. Their survival depends on this vigilance. But to humans, the effect can feel almost uncanny, especially at night. Imagine walking alone through an empty parking lot beneath dim streetlights while a single crow watches from above. The bird remains silent, motionless, a dark outline against the glow of the city sky. The experience feels charged with meaning even when no obvious meaning exists, perhaps because the human imagination has always filled silence with interpretation. For most of history, nighttime carried uncertainty humans could not fully control. Darkness concealed predators, enemies, weather, illness, and death itself. Animals active around human settlements after sunset often became woven into symbolic systems shaped by fear and mystery. Crows inherited part of that symbolism simply by remaining present. Yet scientifically, crows are not creatures of darkness in the same way owls or bats are. They are primarily diurnal, relying heavily on vision during daylight hours. At night, their behavior becomes quieter and more vulnerable. Roosts provide safety precisely because darkness limits their awareness and mobility. This vulnerability is easy to forget. The confidence crows display during daylight can make them seem invincible. But at night they become cautious, conserving energy and avoiding unnecessary movement. Owls sometimes prey upon sleeping crows under cover of darkness, taking advantage of the temporary imbalance between these highly intelligent birds and specialized nocturnal hunters. Nature rarely grants permanent advantages. Every strength carries limitations somewhere, and perhaps this balance contributes to the emotional texture of crow behavior. Their intelligence exists alongside constant awareness of danger. They survive not through dominance alone, but through vigilance, memory, and cooperation. In many ways, crows embody a kind of evolutionary realism. No illusions, no wasted attention, only adaptation. Watching them carefully can subtly alter how one perceives intelligence itself. Humans often associate intelligence with technological achievement or abstract reasoning. But crows reveal another form entirely: practical cognition, deeply integrated with environmental awareness. A crow does not separate thinking from survival. The two remain inseparable. This may be why their behavior appears so grounded, even when remarkably sophisticated. Every observation serves potential future use. Every social interaction carries informational value. Every landscape becomes a mental map layered with memory and prediction. Some scientists believe crows construct highly detailed cognitive representations of territory, including food locations, safe resting areas, predator zones, and social relationships within neighboring groups. These maps are not static. They update continuously through experience. In effect, each crow carries an invisible version of the surrounding world inside its mind. Humans do something similar. We move through familiar neighborhoods partly guided by memory structures built gradually over years of experience. Streets become associated with emotions, dangers, routines, conversations, smells, weather, and personal history. For crows, landscapes may contain equally rich layers of meaning inaccessible to human perception. A particular rooftop might represent safety. A tree may hold generations of roosting memory. An intersection may signal reliable food after rainfall. A certain human face may trigger caution years after a negative encounter. The visible world becomes filled with invisible associations, and perhaps that realization invites a quieter way of seeing nature itself. Not as scenery, not as background, but as countless overlapping experiences unfolding simultaneously around us. Tonight, while many humans sleep beneath artificial light and insulated walls, crows remain gathered in hidden roosts across the continent. Some rest above frozen rivers. Others sleep in coastal pines beside dark oceans. Thousands perch within city trees surrounded by distant traffic and the soft electrical hum of urban life. Their dreams, if birds dream in forms remotely comparable to ours, remain unknowable. But their minds endure, ancient, adaptive, alert, and with the coming dawn, they will rise once more into the cold morning air, carrying their memories back across the waking world. In the early hours of morning, before sunlight fully reaches the ground, crows often travel in silence. They cross above highways veiled in mist, above rivers reflecting pale silver light, above neighborhoods where porch lamps still glow softly against the remaining darkness. Their wings move with steady efficiency, each beat measured and economical. From below, it is easy to overlook how much distance a crow covers in a single day. Many travel miles between feeding areas, water sources, and communal roosts. They memorize these routes with astonishing precision, navigating landscapes transformed constantly by weather, construction, traffic, and seasonal change. A city that appears chaotic to humans may exist inside the crow mind as an organized network of opportunities and risks. This ability depends heavily on memory, and crow memory is extraordinary. Experiments have shown that crows can recall specific locations for years. They remember where food was hidden, which routes proved dangerous, and which humans behaved aggressively toward them long after single encounters. Their minds retain environmental details with remarkable persistence. In evolutionary terms, memory becomes a form of survival architecture. Every successful experience strengthens future decisions. Every mistake carries informational value. For crows, forgetting can be deadly. Perhaps this is one reason they appear so thoughtful while observing unfamiliar situations. A crow rarely rushes directly toward uncertainty. Instead, it pauses, watches, evaluates. Sometimes several birds observe together before approaching anything new. Their caution creates an impression of deliberation, almost philosophical in tone, as though the bird understands the importance of patience. And in nature, patience often matters more than speed. A predator that attacks recklessly may starve from injury. An animal that investigates danger too carelessly may never reproduce. Across millions of years, evolution gradually shaped minds capable of balancing action with restraint. Crows became masters of that balance. Researchers have even documented forms of statistical reasoning in certain crow species. In laboratory settings, some birds learned to choose more reliable food sources based on probability and prior outcomes. While these experiments remain carefully controlled and open to interpretation, they suggest cognitive flexibility far beyond simple conditioned behavior. The deeper science explores crow intelligence. The more layered it becomes: tool use, facial recognition, future planning, social learning, probabilistic decision-making, complex communication, and perhaps most fascinating of all, behavioral adaptability across entirely different environments. A crow living near coastal cliffs behaves differently from one raised in dense cities. Rural populations interact with humans differently than urban populations. Food preferences shift regionally, social dynamics vary. Even vocalizations can change subtly between groups separated geographically. This is not rigid instinct operating mechanically. It is flexible intelligence responding continuously to local conditions. Humans sometimes forget how unusual this is in the animal kingdom. Many species survive through specialization. their bodies and behaviors evolve toward narrow ecological roles that function extremely well under stable conditions. But when environments shift rapidly, specialists often struggle. Crows evolved differently. They became generalists, observers, improvisers. In uncertain worlds, those traits can become powerful advantages, and the modern world is perhaps the most uncertain environment life on Earth has ever experienced. Cities expand constantly. Noise alters communication. Artificial lights erase darkness. Climate shifts disrupt migration patterns and food cycles. Entire ecosystems change within decades rather than millennia. Yet crows continue adapting. Some scientists now study corvid behavior, partly because these birds may reveal how intelligence helps species survive rapid environmental transformation. Their flexibility offers insight into cognition itself as an evolutionary tool, not intelligence for abstract prestige, but intelligence as resilience. Late at night, there is something strangely reassuring about that idea. Life persists not only through strength, but through learning, through adjustment, through curiosity surviving uncertainty. Crows embody this quietly. Even during storms, they display remarkable problem-solving behavior. Observers have noted crows using buildings as windbreaks during severe weather, altering flight patterns dynamically to conserve energy, and exploiting temporary feeding opportunities created by rain or flooding. They respond to environmental instability with active adaptation rather than passive endurance. The natural world often rewards flexibility more than perfection, and perhaps human beings understand this emotionally because our own survival has depended on similar traits. Human civilization itself emerged from cooperation, communication, memory, and the ability to adapt rapidly to changing conditions. In this sense, crows do not merely resemble intelligence. They reveal certain deep principles underlying intelligence wherever it evolves: awareness, learning, prediction, social exchange, environmental modeling. The forms differ, but the foundations echo across species. This realization can subtly change ordinary encounters with crows. A bird standing beside a puddle after rainfall no longer appears entirely simple. Beneath the feathers exists a nervous system processing information constantly, monitoring threats, recognizing patterns, updating memories, evaluating possibilities. An invisible mental world operates there, and invisible mental worlds surround humans everywhere in nature. Whales navigating dark oceans through sound, octopuses exploring coral reefs with distributed neural systems extending through their arms, elephants carrying social memories across decades, bees communicating landscape information through movement and vibration. Consciousness, whatever its deepest nature may be, appears less isolated than humans once imagined. Crows are among the clearest reminders of this hidden continuity. Perhaps that is why they occupy such an unusual emotional space in human perception. People rarely respond to crows with complete indifference. Reactions vary: admiration, discomfort, fascination, suspicion, but neutrality is uncommon. Something about them activates attention. Even their silhouettes possess unusual visual power. Against snow, fog, or twilight skies, the dark shape of a crow becomes instantly recognizable. Minimalistic, sharp, ancient-looking. Artists and storytellers have returned repeatedly to this imagery for centuries because it carries emotional weight without explanation. A single crow on a winter branch can suggest loneliness, intelligence, survival, or mystery depending entirely on the observer's state of mind. The bird becomes a mirror for human interpretation, and perhaps this symbolic flexibility exists precisely because crows themselves resist simple definition. They are neither fully feared nor fully loved, neither predators nor harmless songbirds, neither domestic companions nor distant wilderness creatures. They exist between categories, close enough to understand, distant enough to remain mysterious. In psychology, humans often feel strongest fascination toward things occupying these ambiguous boundaries. The mind becomes restless around partial understanding. Total familiarity produces comfort, but mystery combined with visible intelligence creates lasting attention. Crows have occupied that psychological territory for thousands of years. Even now, in an age of satellites and neuroscience, they continue doing so. Scientists can sequence genomes, scan neural activity, and analyze behavioral data with increasing precision. Yet standing beneath a tree while several crows watch silently overhead still evokes something older and less measurable, a feeling that another awareness is present nearby, different from ours, but undeniably real. Tonight, across enormous distances, millions of crows rest within hidden roosts scattered through forests, suburbs, coastlines, and city centers. Cold air moves softly through branches above them. Snow falls in certain regions. Rain drifts across others. Far below, human lives continue glowing behind windows in the darkness. And overhead, sleeping lightly in the trees, ancient black silhouettes wait patiently for morning to return once again. By midday, crows become more visible again. They descend into open spaces with measured confidence, walking across parking lots, fields, sidewalks, and rooftops, with an oddly deliberate gait. Unlike smaller birds that move in nervous bursts, crows often appear composed while on the ground. They pause frequently, scanning their surroundings before continuing forward. This calmness is partly illusion. A crow is rarely relaxed completely. Even while feeding, its attention remains divided across multiple layers of awareness. Nearby movement, escape routes, social signals from other crows, shifting environmental sounds. Their nervous systems operate within constant vigilance, yet outwardly, they project control, and perhaps humans instinctively associate controlled behavior with intelligence. There is a subtle difference between an animal reacting automatically to the world and one appearing to monitor the world actively. Crows belong firmly to the second category. They do not simply move through environments, they assess them. Researchers studying visual cognition in corvids have found evidence suggesting exceptional attentional abilities. Crows notice minute environmental changes rapidly, often detecting hidden food, altered objects, or unfamiliar patterns faster than many mammals. Their visual processing is highly refined, supported by evolutionary pressures demanding quick interpretation of both social and physical surroundings. Flight itself likely contributed to this development. To navigate safely through forests, storms, urban obstacles, and predator-filled skies requires extraordinary spatial awareness. A crow landing precisely on a narrow branch during high wind performs calculations so rapid and automatic that humans barely recognize them as calculations at all. Yet the physics involved are immensely complex: angle, momentum, distance, surface stability, wind resistance. Every successful landing reflects continuous sensory computation unfolding invisibly inside the brain. Much of intelligence in nature operates this way, silently, efficiently, beneath conscious notice. Humans often reserve the word intelligence for activities resembling our own: mathematics, language, technology. But biological intelligence is far older and broader than human civilization. It exists wherever organisms successfully interpret complex environments and adapt behavior flexibly over time. By that definition, crows rank among the great cognitive success stories of Earth's history, not because they built machines, but because they built minds capable of surviving almost anywhere. In Alaska, crows endure brutal winters where temperatures plunge far below freezing. In deserts, they navigate extreme heat and scarce water. Along coastlines, they forage among tidal ecosystems requiring careful timing and observation. In major cities, they coexist beside millions of humans while exploiting entirely artificial food networks. Few species manage such ecological diversity, and unlike creatures surviving through sheer reproductive numbers alone, crows accomplish this through behavioral sophistication. They learn faster than environments change. That ability may become increasingly important in the future. As ecosystems destabilize globally, animals capable of rapid adaptation may hold significant advantages over more specialized species. Some scientists quietly suspect corvid populations could remain resilient even under environmental pressures devastating to many other birds. Intelligence, once again, becomes survival. There is something quietly sobering about this. Human beings often romanticize nature as peaceful balance, but evolution rarely guarantees stability. Life persists through continual negotiation with uncertainty. Species emerge, adapt, flourish, decline, and vanish across immense stretches of time. Crows understand none of this abstractly, of course, yet their behavior reflects its reality perfectly. Every day, they solve problems presented by changing worlds. And perhaps this practical engagement with reality explains why crows sometimes seem emotionally older than other birds. Not older biologically, but psychologically weathered. Their expressions, insofar as birds possess expressions humans can interpret, often appear serious, evaluative, as though they expect complexity from the world, because complexity has always been there. Even young crows display remarkable curiosity early in life. Juveniles frequently investigate objects repeatedly, manipulate unfamiliar materials, and engage in social play that likely contributes to cognitive development. Play among intelligent animals often serves deeper neurological functions, helping refine problem-solving abilities and social understanding. Young crows wrestle gently with one another, chase moving objects through the air, experiment with sticks, stones, and discarded human items. They interact with the environment not passively, but experimentally, learning through engagement. In this sense, crow intelligence emerges gradually through experience, rather than fixed instinct alone. A young crow enters a world already shaped by older generations carrying knowledge about food sources, dangers, and social behavior. Observation becomes education, and education, in a broad biological sense, changes everything. Many animals inherit survival strategies genetically, but creatures capable of extensive learning inherit something more flexible: the ability to absorb information culturally. Among humans, culture transformed evolution itself. Knowledge no longer depended entirely on slow genetic change. Information could move rapidly between individuals and across generations. Crows display fragments of this same principle. Not civilization, not written language, but transmissible knowledge shaping behavior collectively over time. This becomes especially visible during encounters with danger. If one crow discovers a threatening predator or hostile human, alarm calls spread rapidly through surrounding groups. Nearby birds respond immediately, often joining coordinated harassment behaviors called mobbing. Hawks, larger and stronger than individual crows, may retreat under sustained collective pressure. The social network protects the group, and underlying that protection is communication. One crow notices, others learn. Information moves. In human societies, entire civilizations depend on similar processes. Warnings, observations, discoveries, and stories spread collectively, allowing groups to survive threats impossible for isolated individuals to handle alone. Again and again, crow behavior reveals these deep evolutionary parallels, not because crows are becoming human-like, but because certain cognitive strategies emerge repeatedly wherever intelligence develops under social and environmental pressure. At twilight, these ideas can feel strangely expansive. The natural world stops appearing as a hierarchy with humans standing apart at the summit. Instead, it begins resembling a vast landscape of different minds shaped by different histories, each carrying its own forms of perception and understanding. Crows occupy a particularly fascinating position within that landscape because their intelligence remains visible enough for humans to recognize directly. A crow solving a puzzle feels familiar. A crow remembering a face feels familiar. A crow teaching another crow about danger feels familiar. And yet beneath that familiarity remains radical difference. A crow experiences gravity through flight, weather through feathers, cities from above, human civilization as an environmental force rather than a cultural system. Its world overlaps ours, but does not resemble it completely. Perhaps true understanding between species will always remain partial, because perception itself is shaped by bodies, senses, and evolutionary histories impossible to fully share. Still, partial understanding matters. The fact that humans can recognize intelligence beyond ourselves at all may represent one of the most meaningful developments in modern science, not dominance over nature, recognition within it. Tonight, while streetlights glow over empty roads and cold wind drifts between sleeping houses, crows remain hidden in darkness across the continent. Their black feathers absorb faint moonlight among the branches. Beneath those feathers, Rapid hearts continue beating steadily through the long night, and inside their resting minds linger countless memories of the human world waiting below for dawn. Sometimes the intelligence of crows reveals itself most clearly in moments that appear almost ordinary. A bird waits beside a crosswalk until traffic slows. Another drops shellfish repeatedly onto rocks from carefully chosen heights. A small group gathers near a newly arrived hawk before sounding harsh warning calls that ripple outward through nearby trees. None of these actions seem extraordinary in isolation, but together they form a portrait of a mind constantly interpreting cause and effect. And cause and effect, understood deeply enough, become the foundation of prediction. Prediction allows survival. A crow that predicts danger early lives longer. A crow that predicts food opportunities eats more reliably. A crow that predicts the behavior of humans, predators, weather, or competitors gains invisible advantages accumulating slowly across years. Perhaps intelligence itself is, in part, the art of living slightly ahead of the present moment. Crows seem remarkably skilled at this. Researchers observing urban populations have noted how quickly crows adapt to recurring human patterns. Garbage collection schedules, restaurant closing times, seasonal festivals, outdoor sporting events all become part of the informational landscape crows learn to navigate. Some birds arrive at locations with striking precision shortly before food opportunities appear. Not coincidence, memory refined into expectation. And unlike many animals, crows continue modifying these expectations throughout life. Their learning does not stop after early development. Older birds remain capable of adapting to unfamiliar situations, incorporating new information into existing behavioral strategies. There is a quiet flexibility in that process that feels deeply intelligent. Human beings also survive partly through this ongoing revision of internal models. We carry assumptions about the world constantly, adjusting them when experience contradicts expectation. In psychology, this ability to update mental frameworks forms a central aspect of adaptive cognition. Crows appear capable of simplified versions of the same thing. The world changes. They notice, then they adjust. Late in the evening, when streets empty and colder air settles across the landscape, these hidden layers of intelligence become easier to imagine. One begins noticing how many invisible decisions shape even a single day in the life of a crow. Where to feed, whom to trust, when to flee, which route to follow. Where predators were seen previously, which humans behave unpredictably. Where shelter exists during storms, how social hierarchies shift within the flock. Every decision draws from memory, observation, and instinct woven together continuously. And unlike humans, crows make these decisions without written language, permanent architecture, or technological systems storing information externally. Their intelligence remains embodied completely within living nervous systems and social interaction. There is something elegant about that simplicity. No libraries, no screens, no recorded history, only awareness carried directly from mind to mind through behavior and experience. Perhaps this is why observing crows can create a subtle feeling of mental clarity. Their lives revolve around immediate reality without abstraction layered endlessly on top. They respond to weather as weather, hunger as hunger, danger as danger, and yet within that directness exists genuine sophistication. Modern human life often separates intelligence from physical existence. Much of our thinking occurs through symbols detached from immediate environments, numbers, documents, algorithms, financial systems, digital communication. Crow intelligence remains grounded entirely in the sensory world: light, motion, sound, distance, social behavior. The living landscape itself becomes their language of survival. There are moments when this older form of awareness seems almost calming by comparison. A crow perched silently above a frozen field is not worrying about distant futures or abstract ambitions. Its attention remains rooted in present conditions while still informed by memory and anticipation. Perhaps intelligent life existed this way for millions of years before human civilization accelerated thought into something faster and more restless. Watching crows sometimes feels like glimpsing a quieter form of cognition, still connected closely to the rhythms of the physical world. The seasons matter directly to them. So does wind, temperature, daylight. rainfall. Subtle environmental changes humans often ignore remain deeply meaningful within crow existence. Scientists studying animal behavior occasionally describe certain species as ecological indicators because their health and actions reflect broader environmental conditions. Crows occupy an unusual position in this regard. Their adaptability allows them to survive where many species disappear, yet changes in crow behavior can still reveal important shifts within ecosystems. In some regions, altered migration patterns and breeding behaviors among birds, including corvids, now reflect changing climate conditions. Warmer winters affect food availability and roosting dynamics. Expanding urban heat zones create new survival opportunities during colder months. Artificial lighting alters activity patterns subtly over time. Crows respond to these transformations continuously. Their lives become biological records of environmental change unfolding in real time. Perhaps all animals carry such records silently within their behavior. Humans often imagine history stored mainly in books or monuments, but nature archives history differently, through adaptation, extinction, migration, and altered patterns of life. A forest remembers through its species composition, an ocean remembers through coral and currents, and crows remember through behavior passed gradually across generations. In this way, every living creature becomes part of a larger memory system extending across the planet itself. At night, these thoughts can feel vast without becoming overwhelming. The world reveals itself not as static scenery, but as ongoing conversation between organisms and environments, each shaping the other endlessly across time. Crows participate in this conversation with unusual visibility because they remain so close to human life. They stand beside roads humans build. They feed from landscapes humans transform. They adapt to technologies humans create, yet they remain fundamentally creatures of evolution rather than civilization, wild minds moving through artificial worlds. And perhaps that contrast explains some of the emotional tension people feel around them. Crows remind humans that intelligence did not begin with humanity, nor does awareness belong solely to our species. Long before the first cities appeared, ancient corvid ancestors were already navigating forests with sharp memory and complex social behavior. The evolutionary roots of crow intelligence stretch backward through immense spans of time impossible to fully imagine. Generation after generation surviving harsh winters, predators, scarcity, storms, competition, and environmental change over millions of years. Those pressures shaped nervous systems capable of remarkable flexibility. The result now perches casually on traffic lights and suburban fences, as though such intelligence were ordinary. Perhaps in nature it is. Perhaps minds emerge wherever conditions reward learning strongly enough. And if so, then consciousness itself may be less rare, less isolated, and more deeply woven into the fabric of life than humans once believed. Crows hint at this possibility quietly, not through grand displays, but through small moments of unmistakable awareness repeated endlessly across ordinary days. A bird watching carefully from a rooftop, a memory lasting years, a problem solved patiently, a warning shared socially through the cold evening air. Tonight, across dark forests and sleeping cities, millions of crows remain hidden within their communal roosts. Snow settles softly in northern regions. Rain taps gently against leaves elsewhere. Beneath the darkness, countless intelligent lives rest together above the human world, and by morning they will rise again into the pale light carrying ancient instincts, learned knowledge, and the silent continuity of memory stretching far beyond any single lifetime. As evening approaches, the movements of crows begin changing once again. Throughout the afternoon, they may have scattered across miles of territory, searching fields, coastlines, neighborhoods, and city streets for food. But as daylight fades, subtle coordination gradually returns. Individuals alter direction almost simultaneously, converging toward familiar routes in the sky. From below, These evening flights can look strangely purposeful. Long black lines of birds crossing sunset clouds, small groups merging into larger streams overhead, calls echoing faintly through cooling air as the landscape darkens beneath them. For scientists, communal roosting remains one of the most fascinating aspects of crow behavior because it combines so many elements of intelligence at once: memory, navigation, social coordination, environmental awareness, and communication. A successful roost must remain safe, accessible, thermally favorable, and socially functional for enormous numbers of birds. And remarkably, crows manage this without central leadership. No single bird directs the movement. The system emerges collectively. Each crow responds to environmental signals and social behavior around it, creating coordinated patterns from countless individual decisions. Similar principles appear throughout nature: schools of fish turning in unison, ant colonies organizing labor, migrating geese maintaining formation across continents. But crow societies feel different somehow because intelligence remains so visible within them. Each bird is not merely following instinctive programming blindly. It is observing, remembering, reacting, choosing. The flock becomes a moving network of minds. Perhaps humans feel drawn to such images because they resemble something deeply familiar: civilization itself. Human societies also emerge from billions of individual decisions layered together into systems no single person fully controls. Cities grow, traffic flows, markets shift, languages evolve, and beneath all of it, countless separate minds continuously influence one another. Crows mirror this principle on a smaller, more ancient scale. At twilight, when their silhouettes move against orange and violet skies, the effect can feel almost timeless. The same flights likely unfolded above Roman roads, medieval villages, forgotten battlefields, and prehistoric coastlines long before recorded history began. Human generations passed quickly beneath them, while the crows continued following seasonal rhythms unchanged by politics or empire. There is something calming about witnessing patterns older than civilization. Modern life often feels accelerated, unstable, fragmented by constant information and technological change. But the movements of crows still obey biological rhythms shaped over immense spans of evolutionary time: morning departure, daytime foraging, evening return, winter gathering, spring nesting, ancient cycles continuing quietly beside modern existence. Perhaps this continuity explains why watching birds can create such unusual mental stillness. Their lives unfold according to environmental realities humans no longer notice clearly: sunlight angles, wind direction, seasonal temperature shifts, food availability, predator activity. Crows remain deeply synchronized with these patterns. Even in cities, artificial lights may glow across skyscrapers, traffic may pulse endlessly through the night. But crows still respond primarily to the older systems beneath civilization: the rising sun, the arrival of storms, the lengthening shadows of autumn afternoons. In this sense, they carry traces of the original Earth humans evolved within before technology reshaped daily life. And yet crows also adapt to technology with astonishing success. This combination makes them psychologically compelling, ancient and modern simultaneously, wild but urban, instinctive yet intelligent. Very few animals occupy that intersection so completely. There are even documented cases of crows using moving vehicles almost like environmental tools. Along certain coastlines, crows drop shellfish onto roads, specifically where passing cars are likely to crack them open. Others place nuts near pedestrian crosswalks, retrieving the food safely during traffic stops. The birds are not merely reacting mechanically. They appear to understand sequences. Cars move, objects break, traffic pauses, food becomes accessible. Researchers debate exactly how abstract this understanding may be, but the practical intelligence remains undeniable. One begins to realize that human civilization has unintentionally created a vast cognitive playground for adaptable animals. Doors open automatically, garbage appears predictably, machines produce regular rhythms, traffic lights control movement. Buildings generate warmth during winter. Crows study these systems carefully, and over generations, they learn how to live inside them. There is something almost philosophical about this relationship. Human beings often view themselves as separate from nature because our environments feel artificial. But crows ignore that distinction completely. To them, a city is simply another ecosystem requiring interpretation. Concrete replaces cliffs, streetlights replace branches, landfills replace scavenging grounds. The underlying biological challenge remains the same. Observe the environment accurately enough to survive. Perhaps nature never disappeared from civilization at all. Perhaps it merely changed form. Late at night, when most human activity quiets, this becomes easier to feel. Urban environments stop seeming entirely mechanical. Wind moves through alleyways. Insects gather beneath lamps. Small mammals navigate hidden corridors between buildings. Owls hunt silently through parks and industrial edges. And above it all, crows sleep in dark, communal roosts, woven invisibly into the architecture of human spaces. Many people never realize how close these enormous roosts may be. Thousands of birds resting above city streets unnoticed. The hiddenness itself feels significant somehow. Crows remain highly visible during daylight, yet strangely invisible at night, dissolving into darkness until morning returns. Perhaps this daily disappearance contributes to their aura of mystery. They seem to emerge from nowhere with dawn and vanish again into unseen spaces by evening. Ancient storytellers noticed this too. Across cultures, black birds often became associated with transitions between life and death, day and night, known and unknown. Crows appeared wherever boundaries blurred. Their dark coloration, intelligence, scavenging behavior, and watchful presence made them natural symbols for uncertainty itself. Yet modern science offers a gentler interpretation. Not omens, not supernatural messengers, simply highly intelligent survivors evolving beside humanity for thousands of years. And somehow, this reality may be even more fascinating than the myths, because the truth reveals something profound about life on Earth. Intelligence is not isolated. Human consciousness emerged within a larger living world already filled with perception, memory, communication, and adaptation in countless forms. Crows remind humans of this quietly every day. A bird observing from a telephone wire may carry years of memory and learned behavior invisible to passing strangers below. Entire social histories exist overhead unnoticed. Alliances, rivalries, family bonds, territorial knowledge, remembered dangers, invisible societies layered directly beside human ones. The more carefully scientists study these systems, the more difficult it becomes to dismiss non-human intelligence as simplistic or automatic. Crow behavior repeatedly demonstrates flexible cognition shaped by both instinct and experience. And perhaps the deepest lesson hidden within all of this is not merely that crows are intelligent. It is that intelligence itself may be far more common, varied, and deeply rooted in nature than humans once imagined. Tonight, somewhere beneath drifting clouds and faint moonlight, vast crow roosts settle into stillness across forests and cities alike. Branches sway gently under the weight of sleeping birds. Cold air carries distant traffic sounds upward into the darkness, and resting silently above the human world, millions of ancient black minds wait once more for dawn. When spring arrives, the atmosphere around crows begins to soften. Winter roosts gradually disperse. Large gatherings break apart into smaller family territories. The sharp survival focus of the colder months gives way to behaviors centered around nesting, partnership, and raising young. Trees begin filling with new leaves, concealing movements that remained exposed through winter branches. And somewhere high above the ground, crows start building homes. Crow nests are surprisingly large structures, assembled carefully from sticks, twigs, bark, moss, grass, mud, and softer inner materials. They are usually hidden high within trees. Though in urban environments, crows may also nest on buildings, towers, or other elevated structures, offering security and visibility. The construction process reveals another side of crow intelligence often overlooked: patience. A nest cannot be built through speed alone. Materials must be selected, transported, positioned, reinforced. The structure must withstand rain, wind, predators, and weeks of continuous use. Both members of a breeding pair typically contribute, cooperating through repeated small tasks over many days. There is something deeply ancient in this image. A crow carrying twigs across a pale morning sky while human cities wake slowly below. For all the complexity of modern civilization, certain biological rituals remain unchanged. Creatures still gather materials, build shelter, protect offspring, prepare for uncertain futures, and perhaps nowhere does crow intelligence become more emotionally visible than in their family behavior. Unlike many bird species where young become independent rapidly, crow families often remain connected for extended periods. Juvenile crows may stay with parents for years, assisting with territory defense and even helping feed younger siblings. Biologists call this cooperative breeding. From an evolutionary perspective, it offers advantages. Extra helpers improve survival rates for chicks and strengthen family groups. But psychologically, humans tend to interpret such behavior differently. We see traces of care, continuity, relationship, and although science must remain cautious about projecting human emotions onto animals, evidence increasingly suggests many social species experience rich emotional states of their own. Crows likely form strong social bonds. They recognize individuals, maintain long-term relationships, respond to distress calls, cooperate strategically. Young birds learn directly from older ones through prolonged interaction. These are not signs of isolated instinctive organisms. They are signs of social minds. In quiet moments, especially late at night, this realization can feel strangely moving. Somewhere beyond illuminated windows and sleeping streets, crow parents may be sheltering young chicks beneath dark wings inside hidden nests swaying gently in the wind. Tiny hearts beat rapidly in the darkness. Soft begging calls emerge occasionally from beneath layers of feathers and woven branches. Above them, stars continue their slow movement across the sky, exactly as they did for countless generations before. Life repeats itself endlessly through forms both fragile and resilient. The survival rate for young crows is far from guaranteed. Many dangers surround them from the beginning. Hawks patrol overhead, snakes climb trees, storms destroy nests, food shortages weaken vulnerable chicks. Human infrastructure introduces additional risks: vehicles, toxins, power lines, pollution. Yet crows persist, generation after generation. Their success depends not on eliminating danger, but on adapting continuously around it. Perhaps this is why crow behavior often carries an impression of toughness without aggression. They are not the fastest birds, not the strongest, not the most physically specialized. Their power comes largely from cognition and cooperation. They survive by understanding the world well enough to navigate it intelligently. There is a quiet dignity in that form of survival, and perhaps humans recognize pieces of themselves within it. Human civilization also emerged less from physical dominance than from communication, memory, learning, and social coordination. Compared to many predators, early humans were physically vulnerable creatures. Intelligence became our primary evolutionary strategy. Crows followed a different path towards similar principles, not identical minds, but convergent solutions shaped by survival pressures across deep time. Scientists sometimes refer to this phenomenon as convergent evolution. Unrelated species independently developing similar traits because they face comparable environmental challenges. Wings evolved separately in birds, bats, and insects. Eyes emerged multiple times across evolutionary history. And intelligence, it seems, may also arise repeatedly wherever adaptability becomes essential. Crows demonstrate this beautifully. Their brains evolved along entirely different biological pathways from human brains. Yet certain cognitive abilities overlap in remarkable ways. Problem solving, planning, social learning, tool use, communication. Nature discovered more than one route toward complex thought. This realization subtly changes how the world feels. The natural environment stops appearing as a passive backdrop surrounding humanity. Instead, it becomes filled with parallel experiments in awareness unfolding simultaneously across countless species. Each mind experiences reality differently. A crow navigating thermal air currents above a city perceives things humans never will. Magnetic fields may influence orientation subtly. Ultraviolet visual information invisible to human eyes shapes aspects of perception. Flight itself alters spatial awareness profoundly, and yet despite these differences, enough overlap exists for recognition to occur between species. A human notices a crow, observing carefully. The crow notices the human noticing. For a brief moment, two entirely different evolutionary histories intersect through shared attention. Perhaps this is one reason encounters with intelligent animals feel so memorable. They interrupt the illusion that humans exist alone inside meaningful awareness. Consciousness looks back, not identically, but unmistakably. There are stories from researchers who spent years studying specific crow populations and gradually developed the sense that individual birds recognized them personally. Certain crows approached more closely than others. Some behaved differently around familiar observers versus strangers. Social patterns shifted subtly depending on previous interactions. The line between observer and observed became less clear over time. This creates an unusual emotional atmosphere within crow research itself. Scientists are trained toward objectivity, yet prolonged exposure to intelligent social animals often produces complex feelings difficult to separate entirely from the work, because eventually the crows begin remembering the humans too, and memory changes relationships. Even in ordinary neighborhoods, people sometimes notice this phenomenon unexpectedly. A person who feeds crows regularly may find birds waiting nearby each morning. Another individual who frightened or harmed crows years earlier may still trigger alarm calls when passing through the area. Information persists socially. The birds talk in their own way. At night, this idea can feel almost surreal. Above sleeping suburbs and glowing city streets, entire networks of non-human intelligence continue exchanging information, remembering experiences, adapting behavior, and navigating environments layered directly beside human life. Most people remain unaware of it, yet the systems operate continuously. A hidden civilization of feathers, memory, and flight unfolding quietly overhead. And perhaps there is something comforting in realizing that the world remains far more alive than modern routines often allow humans to notice, not merely populated by animals, but inhabited by minds. Different minds, ancient minds, minds shaped by storms, seasons, migration, danger, cooperation, and survival stretching backward across millions of years. Tonight, as cold air drifts softly through trees and distant lights shimmer beneath the dark horizon, crows remain settled in hidden branches across the continent. Some sleep alone with mates near nesting territories, others rest within enormous communal gatherings, still lingering from winter, and inside those sleeping black silhouettes, the long evolutionary story of intelligence continues quietly through the night. There are places in the world where crows seem almost inseparable from the landscape itself. Coastal fishing towns where they circle above docks waiting for scraps from the sea. Endless agricultural plains where they follow tractors across fresh soil. Dense northern forests where their calls echo through fog between dark pine trees. Quiet suburban neighborhoods where they perch atop streetlights during rainstorms, watching passing cars through curtains of water. Wherever humans build lasting patterns, crows eventually learn them. And once they learn them, they rarely forget. Memory shapes nearly every aspect of crow existence. Unlike animals guided mostly by immediate instinct, crows accumulate experience gradually, layering knowledge year after year into increasingly refined behavioral strategies. Older birds often appear noticeably more cautious and efficient than younger ones, suggesting the long-term effects of learning across entire lifetimes. A crow surviving 10 years has encountered thousands of environmental situations: storms, predators, human faces, changing seasons, competition, dangerous locations, reliable food sources. Its behavior reflects this accumulated history continuously. In humans, memory forms the backbone of identity. Remove memory, and personality itself begins unraveling. For crows, memory may serve a similarly central function. Their awareness of the world depends heavily on remembering what happened before. Perhaps that is why they often appear thoughtful while observing unfamiliar events. A crow is not merely seeing, it is comparing, matching present conditions against stored experience, searching silently for patterns. This process becomes especially visible around humans because human behavior changes so rapidly. One person may offer food consistently, another may behave aggressively. Construction projects alter familiar routes, vehicles appear unpredictably, crowds gather and disperse, noise levels shift constantly. To survive successfully near civilization, crows must interpret this unstable environment with remarkable flexibility. And they do. Some urban crows now display behaviors almost unimaginable a century ago. Researchers have documented birds using heating vents during winter for warmth, timing feeding around commuter traffic, and exploiting food waste patterns generated by modern consumer culture. Human civilization unintentionally created entirely new ecological niches. Crows moved into them almost immediately. There is something deeply revealing about this adaptability. Many species decline when environments change too quickly. Their instincts become mismatched with altered conditions. But crows thrive precisely because they rely so heavily on learning. They are not locked rigidly into one behavioral template. They improvise. In evolutionary terms, improvisation is powerful, perhaps especially during unstable eras. Late at night, when cities quiet and traffic thins into distant hums beneath the darkness, it becomes easier to imagine the hidden intelligence operating around human life constantly. Somewhere on rooftops, crows sleep while remembering routes they will follow tomorrow morning. Somewhere in dark trees, young birds rest beside older family members carrying years of environmental knowledge inside their minds. An invisible transfer of information continues across generations without words. And maybe this is one reason humans feel such lasting fascination toward crows specifically. They seem to exist just beyond the edge of complete understanding. Intelligent enough to recognize, different enough to remain mysterious. The balance never resolves fully. Science explains many aspects of crow cognition now with increasing precision. Researchers measure problem-solving ability, neural density, social learning, vocal complexity, and behavioral adaptation through carefully designed experiments. Yet even surrounded by data, crows retain an atmosphere of ambiguity difficult to erase. A single bird watching quietly from a rooftop still feels symbolically charged in ways few animals do. Perhaps because humans instinctively respond to visible intelligence with heightened emotional attention. Eyes matter deeply in this process. Crows possess forward-facing visual focus unusual enough to create stronger impressions of eye contact than many birds. Their gaze lingers, tracks movement, evaluates surroundings continuously. Combined with their dark coloration and calm posture, this creates the unsettling sense that the bird is studying the world intentionally rather than merely reacting to it. And in truth, it probably is. Intentionality may exist across far more species than humans once believed. Not human-style reasoning, certainly, but active internal modeling of the environment leading to flexible decisions. Crows reveal this constantly through small acts of adjustment, changing feeding strategies after observing danger, avoiding traps after witnessing another crow captured, using elevated vantage points to monitor large areas efficiently, recruiting other birds during conflicts, testing unfamiliar objects cautiously before approaching. Each behavior reflects cognition interacting dynamically with experience. And perhaps the most remarkable part is how ordinary all of this appears once one becomes accustomed to it. The extraordinary hides inside everyday scenes: a black bird crossing a gray sky, a cluster of silhouettes on telephone wires at sunset, rough calls drifting through cold evening air. For most people, these become background details quickly forgotten. Yet hidden within those ordinary moments exists one of the most sophisticated non-human intelligences ever studied. This happens often in nature. Human attention gravitates toward rarity, beauty, or spectacle, while overlooking the complexity embedded within common things. Crows are widespread precisely because their intelligence works so effectively. Their success makes them familiar. Familiarity then disguises the astonishing reality beneath it, a creature capable of long-term memory, social learning, planning, communication, and adaptive problem-solving stands beside parking lots every day, largely unnoticed. There is something humbling about that. Perhaps the natural world has always contained more depth than humans realized, simply because much of it hides in plain sight. The longer scientists study animal cognition, the more this pattern repeats. Octopuses solving puzzles, elephants recognizing themselves in mirrors, dolphins using signature whistles functioning almost like names, bees communicating landscape information through dance. Mind appears everywhere once humans learn how to look carefully enough. Crows merely make the realization especially difficult to ignore. Their intelligence is visible from a distance, and because they live so close to humanity, they become constant reminders that awareness surrounds us continuously, even now, while much of the world sleeps. Crow roosts remain suspended above rivers, forests, industrial districts, suburbs, and city parks across entire continents. Tens of thousands of birds rest together in darkness, their feathers insulating them against cold night air. Occasionally one shifts position, another murmurs a low sound briefly before settling again. The enormous communal organism breathes quietly within the trees. Then dawn begins slowly somewhere beyond the horizon. Light gathers gradually across clouds. The first movements stir through the branches, and once again, millions of intelligent black silhouettes rise into the morning sky, carrying memories older than any single human life, continuing their endless observation of the waking world below. For creatures so closely associated with darkness in human imagination, crows spend much of their lives surrounded by light. They are deeply visual animals. Sun angle matters to them. Reflections matter. Movement across distant landscapes matters. Their sharp eyesight allows them to detect subtle environmental changes from remarkable distances, whether scanning open fields for danger or observing human activity far below from the air. A crow in flight sees a world built from patterns, roads branching like rivers through cities, shadows shifting across rooftops, tiny motions revealing food, threats, opportunities. Even airflow itself becomes visible through instinctive interpretation of currents and turbulence invisible to human senses. Flight changes perception completely. Humans experience landscapes horizontally, moving through them step by step. Crows experience them volumetrically. Distance compresses differently from above. Obstacles transform into pathways. Entire neighborhoods become navigable maps of memory and prediction. Perhaps this aerial perspective contributes subtly to their intelligence. A flying creature must constantly integrate motion, balance, orientation, weather, and geography simultaneously. Every journey becomes an exercise in dynamic environmental awareness, and crows are exceptionally skilled navigators. Studies suggest they can memorize large territories with impressive accuracy, returning repeatedly to productive feeding sites and safe roosting areas over enormous distances. Some researchers believe crows construct complex mental maps integrating visual landmarks, social information, and environmental memory into cohesive spatial understanding. Humans do something similar. A familiar town exists inside the human mind, not merely as streets and buildings, but as emotional and experiential geography layered with memory. Certain roads feel safe, others feel tense. Landmarks trigger recollections instantly. For crows, landscapes may carry equally rich associations inaccessible to human perception. One tree may represent generations of nesting history. A rooftop may signal reliable winter warmth. A particular intersection may hold memories of danger. Invisible meanings saturate physical space. This idea changes how ordinary environments feel once considered carefully enough. The world stops appearing empty between human activities. Instead, it becomes crowded with overlapping experiences unfolding silently around us. A crow perched outside a grocery store is not simply waiting randomly. It may remember which employees discard food consistently, which hours produce heavy pedestrian traffic, which nearby humans behave predictably, which escape routes remain safest if threatened. Every location contains accumulated knowledge, and knowledge, over time, becomes behavior. There is something strangely beautiful about intelligence operating so quietly within everyday life. Human civilization often celebrates dramatic displays of cognition, technological inventions, scientific breakthroughs, monumental architecture, but crow intelligence exists mostly in subtle adjustments repeated endlessly across ordinary moments. A careful pause before crossing traffic, a remembered face, a successful adaptation passed socially between birds. Tiny acts of awareness sustaining entire populations. Perhaps this quieter form of intelligence feels especially calming because it remains connected directly to reality rather than abstraction. Crows do not accumulate information for prestige or theory. Knowledge matters only insofar as it improves survival, cooperation, or adaptation. In that sense, their minds remain deeply grounded. The natural world tends to reward practical awareness. Even play among crows may serve hidden developmental purposes beneath its apparent spontaneity. Young birds chasing one another through wind currents or manipulating objects repeatedly may be refining coordination, social understanding, and environmental exploration through behavior that appears joyful from the outside. Play itself remains one of the most mysterious aspects of animal cognition. Why would evolution preserve activities consuming energy without immediate survival benefit? One possibility is that play strengthens flexible thinking. Highly intelligent species often display it prominently. Dolphins surfing waves, ravens sliding down snowy rooftops, primates inventing social games, octopuses repeatedly interacting with floating objects for no clear reason, and crows, beneath winter skies, sometimes seem to engage in play simply because the world interests them. Curiosity may be one of the deepest signatures of advanced cognition wherever it evolves. A purely instinctive organism has little reason to investigate beyond immediate necessity. But intelligent minds benefit from exploration because information gained today may solve problems tomorrow. Crows appear driven strongly by this exploratory impulse. They inspect unfamiliar objects cautiously, test environmental changes, observe new behaviors, experiment repeatedly with tools and food sources. Their intelligence remains active rather than passive. Perhaps humans recognize this quality intuitively because curiosity also defines so much of human experience. Civilization itself emerged partly from endless questioning about the environment. What lies beyond the horizon? How seasons work? How tools function? Where stars move at night? Crows possess smaller-scale versions of this same orientation toward uncertainty. They notice, investigate, learn, and then remember. Memory, once again, sits at the center of everything. Without memory, intelligence collapses into isolated moments disconnected from consequence. But with memory, experiences accumulate into models of reality increasingly refined over time. For crows, these models may include astonishing amounts of detail. Researchers have documented food-caching species remembering hundreds of hidden locations months after storing them. Others recall social relationships, territorial conflicts, and specific environmental conditions long after events occur. Their minds carry persistent internal worlds shaped by history. At night, this realization can feel unexpectedly profound. Every crow sleeping now inside dark trees carries invisible archives of experience inaccessible to human observation. Entire lifetimes of remembered weather, landscapes, dangers, companions, and encounters exist silently behind those closed eyes. An ordinary bird becomes suddenly less ordinary, not a symbol, not a myth, but a conscious organism moving through reality with awareness, accumulated gradually across years. Modern science increasingly suggests this may be true for far more animals than humans once imagined. Consciousness appears less binary than older philosophies assumed. Rather than existing only in humans or not at all, awareness may emerge in degrees and forms across much of life. Crows occupy a fascinating middle ground within this possibility. Complex enough to display unmistakable cognition, different enough to remind humans that intelligence need not resemble us completely. This balance creates both recognition and mystery simultaneously. Perhaps that is why people rarely forget unusual encounters with crows. A bird leaving gifts after being fed regularly. A flock reacting collectively to a specific human face. a solitary crow following someone briefly through a park from tree to tree. These experiences linger because they hint at reciprocal awareness. The human notices the crow notices the human noticing. Something passes briefly between species, not language exactly, but attention. And attention itself may be one of the deepest connections conscious beings can share. Tonight, while cold winds move softly across empty roads and sleeping houses, millions of crows remain hidden in darkness above the human world. Some rest beside lifelong mates, others sleep among vast communal roosts, stretching across entire city blocks and forests. Beneath their feathers, intelligent minds drift through temporary stillness. Then somewhere beyond the horizon, morning begins again. As the first light spreads slowly across the horizon, the crow roost begins waking in stages. One bird stirs somewhere high within the branches. Then another answers with a low call barely audible beneath the sound of distant wind. Feathers rustle softly. Shapes shift against the pale blue edge of dawn. For several quiet minutes, the entire gathering exists suspended between sleep and motion. Then suddenly, almost invisibly, a decision passes through the flock. The first birds launch outward into the cold air. Others follow immediately. Within moments, thousands of dark silhouettes stream overhead in widening currents, dispersing across rivers, forests, farmland, industrial districts, suburbs, and city centers. The hidden nighttime civilization dissolves back into the waking landscape, and most humans never notice it happened. Perhaps that is part of what makes crows so compelling. Extraordinary things surround ordinary life constantly, but attention rarely lingers long enough to see them clearly. A person driving to work beneath a river of migrating crows may glance upward briefly before returning focus to schedules, messages, traffic lights, and deadlines. Meanwhile, above the highway, ancient biological systems unfold with astonishing complexity. Navigation, social coordination, environmental memory, communication, survival strategies refined across millions of years. The modern world often creates the illusion that human activity exists separately from nature. Yet crows expose how incomplete that illusion truly is. They move through human environments effortlessly because they never accepted the separation in the first place. To a crow, a city is simply habitat. Strange habitat, certainly. Loud, bright, dangerous, but still part of the same living world forests and coastlines belong to. And perhaps crows understand humans more accurately than humans understand themselves. People tend to imagine civilization as permanent and exceptional. But from an ecological perspective, cities are temporary structures layered atop older landscapes. Roads crack, buildings decay, vegetation returns. Animal populations adapt continuously around human systems. Crows witness this process generation after generation. They survive not by resisting change, but by studying it carefully. In this sense, crows embody one of evolution's oldest lessons. Flexibility outlasts rigidity. Species survive when they remain capable of learning. There is something deeply calming about this realization late at night. Beneath the noise and acceleration of modern life, the biological foundations of existence remain surprisingly simple. Awareness notices patterns, memory preserves useful information, social cooperation improves survival, adaptation responds to uncertainty. Crows perform these ancient processes constantly, and because their intelligence feels visible, humans can recognize echoes of themselves within it. Not superiority, not equality, but kinship at a distant evolutionary scale. The same universe that produced human consciousness also produced crow consciousness through entirely different pathways, different brains, different bodies, different sensory worlds. Yet both species emerged capable of remembering, learning, communicating, and shaping behavior through experience. Nature discovered more than one way to create minds. That fact alone quietly transforms the world. It means intelligence is not an isolated accident belonging solely to humanity. Instead, awareness appears woven into life more deeply and broadly than earlier generations imagined. Minds surround us constantly in forms both familiar and strange. A whale navigating black ocean depths through sound, an octopus exploring coral with distributed neural systems, an elephant carrying social memory across decades, and a crow perched silently on a winter branch above an empty road, observing the human world with patient, dark eyes. Perhaps this expanding understanding represents one of science's most meaningful contributions. Not merely technological power or information accumulation, but a gradual widening of perspective. The more humans study nature honestly, the more interconnected life begins to appear. Boundaries soften, distinctions blur. The old hierarchy placing humanity entirely apart from other creatures becomes harder to maintain. Crows play a special role in this shift because they live so close beside us. They are not distant exotic animals hidden in remote ecosystems. They inhabit parking lots, parks, rooftops, electrical wires, schoolyards, fishing docks, and quiet suburban trees. They remain near enough for recognition to happen repeatedly, and perhaps recognition changes responsibility. It becomes harder to dismiss other forms of life as meaningless once intelligence becomes visible within them. A creature capable of memory, social learning, planning, and adaptation begins feeling less like scenery and more like presence. Not human presence, but presence nonetheless. This realization need not become sentimental. Crows are not gentle creatures in any idealized sense. They steal food, raid nests, fight aggressively, exploit weakness when survival demands it. Nature remains morally neutral in ways humans often find uncomfortable. Yet intelligence itself carries a certain gravity regardless of morality. A thinking creature changes the emotional atmosphere of the world simply by existing within it. And crows think, not abstractly about philosophy or mathematics perhaps, but concretely about landscapes, danger, timing, relationships, and opportunity. Their awareness operates continuously against the shifting realities of weather, predators, competition, and human civilization. Every day they solve countless small problems successfully enough to survive. There is dignity in that, especially in a world changing so rapidly. Scientists still have much to learn about crow cognition. New research continues revealing behaviors previously considered impossible in birds. Pattern recognition, tool modification, delayed gratification, social teaching, even hints of episodic memory, the ability to recall specific past experiences in contextual detail. Each discovery forces another adjustment in how humans define intelligence itself. Perhaps the deepest lesson crows offer is intellectual humility. For centuries, humans underestimated animal minds, partly because we searched only for reflections of ourselves. But intelligence shaped by flight, feathers, and entirely different sensory realities will not look identical to human thought. It was never supposed to. Crows invite humans to imagine awareness more broadly, not as a single ladder ascending toward humanity, but as countless branching forms adapted to different ways of surviving on Earth. Some minds swim, some burrow, some migrate through oceans, and some gather in black rivers across the evening sky above sleeping cities. Tonight, somewhere beyond illuminated windows and drifting clouds, crows rest together in hidden roosts once again. Their feathers rise and fall softly with breathing. Cold moonlight filters through branches overhead. Distant traffic hums below like an artificial river moving endlessly through the darkness. The birds remain silent now, but morning will come, and when it does, millions of intelligent blackwings will lift once more into the pale air, carrying memory, awareness, and ancient curiosity back across the waking world. There is a certain kind of winter afternoon when the world seems designed for crows. The sky turns pale and colorless. Snow rests along rooftops and empty fields. Bare branches stretch upward like dark veins against the clouds. Sound becomes softer in the cold air, as though distance itself has thickened. And somewhere within that stillness, a crow calls once. The sound travels far, harsh, ancient, unmistakable. For thousands of years, humans hearing that call likely experienced many of the same emotions people feel today: curiosity, unease, fascination, recognition. Few animal sounds carry such immediate symbolic weight. Even now, in modern cities flooded with artificial noise, the voice of a crow still cuts through attention cleanly, perhaps because it sounds less musical than intentional. Most songbirds produce melodies shaped by rhythm and beauty. Crow vocalizations feel different, functional, direct, almost conversational in tone. Researchers studying crow communication have identified wide ranges of calls serving distinct purposes: warnings, territorial signals, social coordination, juvenile begging, recruitment during conflict, and quieter contact sounds exchanged between familiar birds. Some scientists suspect crow vocal systems may contain layers of complexity humans still only partially understand. This would not be surprising. Human language itself remained mysterious for most of history despite surrounding us constantly. Communication systems often appear simple from the outside until careful study reveals intricate structures hidden beneath ordinary sounds. Crows may experience something similar. To human ears, a group of calling crows can sound repetitive or chaotic. But within the flock, subtle variations may carry significant meaning, shaped by context, memory, and social relationships. After all, communication becomes essential wherever intelligence and cooperation evolve together, and crows are profoundly social creatures. A solitary crow exists rarely for long. Even when feeding alone, it remains connected to broader social networks through shared territory, vocal contact, remembered relationships, and communal roosting structures. Information flows continuously between individuals. Danger spotted in one location spreads rapidly. Food discoveries attract attention. Predators become targets of coordinated harassment. Young birds learn through observation. The flock remembers collectively. This collective dimension of crow intelligence may be one of its most fascinating aspects. Humans often imagine intelligence as individual brilliance, but in nature cognition frequently becomes distributed socially. Knowledge survives because it moves between minds, rather than remaining isolated inside one organism. Human civilization depends entirely on this principle. No individual human understands modern society completely. Knowledge accumulates across generations and institutions collectively. Language, science, agriculture, engineering, all emerge from shared information systems extending beyond single lifetimes. Crows display smaller but recognizable versions of the same phenomenon. Their societies carry memory, not through books or digital archives, but through behavior, observation, and learned responses passed gradually between birds. And perhaps this continuity explains why crows often feel strangely ancient to human observers. A crow perched beside a road today behaves in ways shaped partly by countless generations before it. The bird inherits instincts refined across evolutionary time, while also learning directly from living social groups around it. Past and present overlap inside every action. In quiet moments, this becomes easier to feel, especially near dusk, when large groups gather overhead before returning to roost. The movement feels older than history itself. Long, dark streams crossing orange skies while cold wind moves across the landscape below. Human civilization appears temporary beside such rhythms. Roads, governments, technologies, entire cultures rise and vanish across centuries. Yet crows continue following patterns established long before modern nations existed. Morning flights, seasonal migrations, winter gatherings, nesting territories, life repeating patiently through changing worlds. There is comfort in that continuity, perhaps because modern life often feels fragmented and accelerated, filled with constant novelty detached from deeper rhythms. Crows remind humans that existence once moved differently, more cyclically, more directly connected to weather, daylight, food, and survival. And despite all technological advancement, humans remain biological creatures underneath civilization too. The nervous system still responds to seasons. Sleep still follows light cycles imperfectly. Emotions still emerge from ancient neural structures shaped long before cities or screens. Watching crows sometimes reawakens awareness of these older layers quietly operating beneath modern routines. Scientists studying animal cognition occasionally warn against underestimating species simply because their intelligence differs from human thought. A crow brain processes reality through entirely different sensory priorities and evolutionary pressures. What matters to a crow is not abstract philosophy, but environmental interpretation. Movement, timing, social cues, danger, opportunity. Yet from these foundations emerges remarkable flexibility, tool use, strategic planning, memory lasting years, cooperation, problem solving, even deception. Crows sometimes hide food while pretending to place it elsewhere if another bird appears to be watching. Such behavior suggests awareness not only of physical environments, but of other minds observing those environments simultaneously. This kind of social cognition changes everything. Once an animal begins modeling what others know or intend, behavior becomes dramatically more sophisticated. Deception becomes possible. Cooperation becomes nuanced. Social strategy emerges. Humans live immersed in this psychological complexity constantly. Much of human life revolves around interpreting hidden intentions, predicting reactions, managing reputation, and navigating relationships. Crows may experience simpler forms of these same dynamics within their own societies, and perhaps that resemblance contributes to the strange feeling many people experience around them. The sense that crows are not merely reacting to the world, but thinking within it. Late at night, this idea can feel quietly profound. Across forests, coastlines, and sleeping cities, millions of crow minds continue processing reality through forms of awareness both alien and recognizable. Entire emotional and cognitive worlds unfold invisibly beside human life every day. Most remain inaccessible to us, yet glimpses appear occasionally. A remembered face, a solved puzzle, a playful interaction in falling snow, a flock responding collectively to danger, small windows into another kind of intelligence. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not whether animals think, but how many different ways thinking can exist. Nature has experimented with minds for hundreds of millions of years. Nervous systems evolved repeatedly across radically different branches of life. Some became fast hunters, others social cooperators. Some developed sonar, migration instincts, camouflage, or tool use. And somewhere along that vast evolutionary path, crows became observers. Dark birds with sharp memory and adaptable minds, learning continuously from the changing world around them. Tonight they rest again in hidden roosts beneath winter stars and drifting clouds. The branches holding them sway gently in cold wind. Snow gathers softly on silent rooftops below, and above the sleeping human world, ancient black silhouettes wait patiently for another dawn to arrive. If a person watches crows long enough, a subtle transformation begins to happen. At first, the birds appear interchangeable, dark shapes moving through familiar routines. But gradually, differences emerge. One crow walks with unusual boldness, another hangs back cautiously at the edge of the group. Some vocalize constantly, while others remain quiet observers. Certain birds seem especially curious about human activity, approaching closer than the rest. Personality begins to reveal itself. This realization has become increasingly important in animal cognition research. Scientists once avoided discussions of personality in non-human species, fearing it sounded unscientific or overly emotional. But over time, evidence accumulated too consistently to ignore. Many intelligent animals display stable behavioral tendencies that differ between individuals. Crows are no exception. Some are adventurous, some suspicious, some highly social, others solitary and withdrawn. These differences influence how birds solve problems, explore environments, respond to threats, and interact within flocks. A bold crow may investigate unfamiliar objects immediately. A cautious crow may survive longer by avoiding unnecessary risks. Evolution preserves variation because no single strategy succeeds under all conditions. There is something deeply familiar about that truth. Human societies also depend partly on cognitive diversity. Different personalities contribute different strengths. Careful thinkers avoid disaster. Curious individuals discover opportunities. Socially skilled people maintain group cohesion. Adaptable minds respond to change. Perhaps intelligence itself flourishes best not through uniformity, but through variation. Crow flocks seem to embody this naturally, and because their behavior remains so visible, humans can sometimes sense individuality in them almost instinctively. People who regularly observe neighborhood crows often begin recognizing specific birds through behavior alone. One may perch repeatedly in the same location each morning. Another may display an old injury or distinctive feather pattern. Certain pairs remain consistently together year after year. Slowly, anonymous wildlife becomes recognizable presence. The psychological effect of this is subtle but powerful. A creature without identity is easy to ignore. But once individuality appears, emotional distance narrows automatically. The mind begins attributing continuity, memory, and inner experience to the animal more readily. And in the case of crows, the evidence increasingly supports that intuition. These birds remember, learn, choose, adapt, interact socially in sophisticated ways. The old idea of animals as purely instinctive machines becomes difficult to sustain under careful observation. Late at night, this realization can feel strangely peaceful rather than unsettling. The world begins seeming less empty. Intelligence is no longer confined to human conversations and illuminated buildings alone. Awareness extends outward into trees, coastlines, skies, rivers, and dark communal roosts hidden above sleeping streets. Not human awareness, but awareness nonetheless. And perhaps humans are psychologically healthier when they remember this. Modern life often creates profound separation from the rest of the living world. Artificial environments dominate daily experience. Climate-controlled rooms replace weather. Screens replace landscapes. Digital communication replaces direct sensory contact with nature. Yet human nervous systems evolved within ecosystems, surrounded constantly by non-human life. For most of history, people woke to bird calls, tracked seasonal migrations, noticed animal behavior changes before storms, and shared physical space continuously with other species. The boundaries between human society and the natural world remained far thinner. Crows still carry traces of that older relationship. Because they refuse to disappear entirely into wilderness or retreat completely from civilization, they remain alongside humanity, watching, learning, adjusting. Perhaps this persistence explains why crows often feel psychologically grounding in subtle ways. They remind humans that beneath technology and urban systems, older biological realities continue unfolding uninterrupted. Winter still arrives, spring still returns, animals still migrate, mate, compete, cooperate, and survive. The Earth remains alive beneath civilization, and few animals reveal this continuity more clearly than crows, because they adapt so effectively to human environments without losing their essential wildness. Even their flight reflects this balance between elegance and practicality. Unlike soaring hawks or highly maneuverable swallows, crows fly with steady, deliberate wing beats suited for endurance and adaptability. They can glide efficiently, maneuver through dense urban obstacles, land precisely on narrow surfaces, and travel long distances when necessary. Every aspect of their movement suggests functional intelligence shaped by experience. There is little wasted energy. Nature tends toward efficiency eventually, and perhaps intelligent behavior itself represents a form of energetic efficiency. A creature capable of learning avoids repeating costly mistakes. Memory reduces unnecessary risk. Cooperation improves survival odds. Curiosity discovers new resources before scarcity becomes fatal. Crows embody these principles constantly. Scientists studying comparative cognition sometimes describe corvid intelligence as an example of evolutionary convergence with primates. Despite radically different evolutionary histories, both groups developed large relative brain sizes, complex social behavior, prolonged juvenile learning periods, and advanced problem-solving abilities. Different biological paths arrived at surprisingly similar cognitive outcomes. This matters philosophically because it suggests intelligence may emerge predictably under certain environmental pressures. Wherever survival rewards flexibility, memory, social coordination, and innovation strongly enough, minds become more complex over time. In other words, awareness may not be rare in the universe of life. It may be an unfolding tendency hidden within evolution itself. Crows hint at this possibility quietly every day. a bird using traffic patterns to crack nuts, a flock remembering a threatening human face for years, parents teaching young through prolonged social interaction, individuals adjusting strategies based on observation and experience, small acts of cognition woven continuously into ordinary existence. And perhaps this is why crows have inspired both scientific curiosity and mythology across so many cultures. Long before neuroscience existed, humans sensed something unusual about them intuitively, not magic exactly, but mind, a visible intelligence difficult to categorize fully. Ancient people interpreted that mystery through stories and symbols. Modern science approaches it through experiments and data. Yet both responses emerge from the same basic encounter. Humans noticing awareness reflected unexpectedly in another species. The crow becomes a mirror, not because it resembles humanity outwardly, but because it reveals certain deep patterns shared by thinking creatures everywhere. Curiosity, memory, caution, learning, social connection, adaptation, and all of this unfolds constantly above ordinary life, while most people remain unaware. Tonight, as midnight deepens over forests, suburbs, coastlines, and glowing city streets, millions of crows sleep inside hidden roosts across the continent. Some rest alone near nesting territories, others cluster together by the thousands in dark winter trees. Their feathers insulate them against cold night air. Their hearts beat quickly beneath the silence, and inside their sleeping minds remain countless remembered maps of the waking world, waiting patiently for morning to return once more.